people aren't looking at the risk of their existing system. They know it's based on theft. Many people know that their individual rights and freedoms are getting taken away. If you look at the voting, politicians are getting worse and worse.
So what is it? Have we become resigned?
What they're actually saying is if it's based on theft, and it doesn't matter which politician you vote for,
yes,
it's who gets more of the spoils of the theft, and that means everybody gets worse. So that's the way that our system works. And so then people get apathetic to this, desensitized, and they see it's getting worse and worse, and they can see it all around themselves, and they know it. And then you have a system like Bitcoin that this system would say is terrible. So all the media that they would read would say, oh, don't go there, that has risk. When it is the only thing without counterparty to the rest of the system. It's the only thing. Housing has counterparty risk. Banks have counterparty risk. Every single thing inside your system has counterparty risk, except for Bitcoin. So it's the least risky thing you could do. And people think it's the most risky because they're so used to this. They're in a control system. Yes. It's not a political system. No. It's not an economic system.
No, it's a control system.
It's a control system.
100%. And with CBDC coming up, it's going to be even worse.
Because it has to. It's mathematically, it has to.
Peace, man. Okay. Let's do it. Yeah, I've consumed so much of you and your content over the past few weeks.
I've never watched.
I feel like I know you so well.
I've never watched a podcast back because otherwise I wouldn't do another one. I hate seeing myself on. Yeah, so. Yeah.
It's really pleasant listening to you.
Oh,
it's very easy.
You can go to sleep. You mean you fall asleep?
Yes, that too. Okay, so. Hello and welcome to another episode of You're the Voice. I'm very happy to be here today with Jeff Booth.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. And we're in the beautiful island of Madeira in Portugal, right off the coast of Morocco, actually. We're here one day before Bitcoin Atlantis, which is a massive Bitcoin conference that Jeff helped put together with a group of really committed people. I've interviewed Andre not long ago.
Yeah, awesome.
And he told us all about the committee and the work that you guys have been doing and the different blocks of content that you took responsibility of during the conference. So really impressive work. It's the first time, right? It's the first time that a big event like that is happening in Madeira?
Well, for sure, yeah. And so it's really exciting. It's really exciting. And you've met a bunch of the people here already. It's a high signal event.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
The attraction of the Bitcoiners, the audience, but also the speakers is overwhelming. Like 200 speakers and amazing content over the next 3 days. So I think we're going to have fun with the price of Bitcoin going up.
Yeah, totally.
So it's a big party. Wow. Okay. So I just want to start with a quick intro. Brilliant teacher, investor, general partner at Ego Death Capital, which you'll tell us about in a minute, if you will. An entrepreneur, board member, and best-selling author of The Price of Tomorrow, Why Deflation is the Key to an Abundant Future. Can you tell us a bit more about your background, just so people get to know you?
I don't know even what to say. It's hard to talk about you. So I would say probably the easiest thing is I've always been an entrepreneur. From an early age, kind of wanted to get into business, and understanding that you can only create a business if that business helps others and they determine value in it. So that's actually probably the draw in to get into business, and tried to find different ways and created various things. I early saw where the .com market was going, technology was going, and I was really early in that and understanding what people thought it was versus what it would turn into. Mm-hmm. So created a pretty successful company, and they're board members of other companies, investor in other companies. So saw that wave. And honestly, I made so many mistakes, and it was the mistakes that taught me more. For a long time, I thought everything was outside. It was every mistake, everything happened to me. Mm-hmm. Then I realized over time that all of those mistakes were me happening to the world. And so it just almost a lifetime of learning and realizing those mistakes, just you see patterns faster. You read a lot, you see patterns, and out of the experience and kind of building in the technology wave, I was wrestling with the problem that everything I was building and technology I was building was falling in price, and it was getting more and more efficient. And I knew all my friends were doing the same thing. I was at Google Zeitgeist each year. I was in some of the top technology companies. Shopify founders are my friends. So you could see this happening everywhere. So it wasn't just my technology company, it was all technology companies. They were essentially creating more efficiencies, and that's why they were driving more value. But when you looked at broadly, that value, those efficiencies weren't translating to the general public in the form of lower prices. And so it was a dilemma for me. I would say something that, and when something bugs me like that, I tend to keep going. And as I understood what the existing financial system looked like and how it essentially had to capture that deflation that should be flowing to society in the form of lower prices, and it had to steal more of it and more of it and more of it, I realized that the system we lived in would almost be a mirror image of the technology that should be providing abundance. It would steal that, and it would divide us, and it would make people would fight. People would give it more strength as they fought. It would divide us all over the world. And so that's why I wrote the book, because I could just see this moving forward, and I saw my kids living in that world, which was very different than the world I grew up in. And I thought that's going to be a terrible place. And even in the book, you know this, but there was one line about Bitcoin.
There's hardly any talk about Bitcoin. It's amazing.
It was mostly.
I listened to it.
Yeah, it was mostly me kind of walking through the paradox of these different systems, and then posing that Bitcoin could be a solution, not it was a solution. And since I've gotten, it was
2020 that you wrote it, right?
Yeah, I wrote it through 2019 actually, and released it in 2020. Actually 2018, 2019, and then released it in January of 2020. And then virtually everything I wrote about is coming true.
Yep.
Right? So.
Yep. With great pleasure, I'd like to introduce my sponsors. They help me fulfill my mission of spreading truth, freedom, and sovereignty. You're the Voice is brought to you by Trezor, the original Bitcoin hardware wallet company pioneering the development of self-custody for crypto assets since 2013, empowering individuals with an open-source device, enabling beginners and experts to easily and securely hold their coins. I find my Trezor super easy to use and recommend it to my friends and family. Enjoy my 5% discount on Trezor products by clicking the link in the show notes and using the code AFLAT. Next up is Bitcoin Nashville. If you're like me, sick of the globalists and central banks robbing you blind through excessive money printing, you need to be at Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville. This July, the largest Bitcoin conference in the world will shed light on monetary freedom with a glimmer of hope among a darkening reality of centralized power and control. Top speakers and companies will gather in Nashville to take part in building a new reality. I'll be there too, speaking and interviewing. Head over to my link in the notes for a 10% discount using the code BTCIL. And finally, BTC Prague, the biggest, most influential Bitcoin event in Europe, coming up on June 13th with 100 speakers on 4 stages, 100 Bitcoin companies presenting at the expo, and 10,000 like-minded Bitcoiners and freedom lovers from all around the world. I'm excited to attend for the first time as a speaker. I'll be speaking about CBDCs, interviewing other speakers, learning about Bitcoin, and meeting the best and brightest in the industry. The event runs for 3 days with a rich program from pitching contests to panels, presentations, and parties. I'd love to meet you in Prague. Use my code for a 10% discount. And also, I read your article, Finding Signal in a Noisy World.
Yeah.
And your thesis about prices falling into the marginal cost of production is like a thread between all the different pieces of your work and everything I hear you talk about. And you always say Bitcoin is repricing the entire world. it's not the other way around.
Yeah.
And that's what people tend to think. And I think a lot of your insights are difficult for people to comprehend,
Yeah.
right? And I think you do a good job in taking us through those the claims or the thesis that you have. But the most interesting one for me was that the price fall to the marginal cost of production.
It's why it's so hard to see, though. So I'll give you an example, just a very real example of what people do in broken money.
Yes.
So you know, and I know, and everyone knows, you go to Google every day because it gives you more value.
Yes.
And so now ask yourself, if Google increased the price of every search to $2, would you still go to Google?
Probably not.
So your choices influence their decisions to give you more value. And then to do that, they need to remove labor faster and faster and automate things with AI. And as they get bigger and bigger, because money is broken, you also put your money into Google, because if you put your money in the bank, your money loses value. And then you wonder why they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
So you put it on stock of
You
Google,
put
right?
it in Google
Yes.
stock,
Yeah.
because unless you do, the Magnificent Seven, all AI companies that are doing this job, that are giving you more value, you're making them stronger with your investments. And then you complain about everything's being taken when you make it happen.
You put your energy in there. You put your money in there.
And so everybody in society is doing the same thing. Now, here's the interesting thing about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's repricing Google. And Bitcoin's repricing all the cash flows that come from Google. And if you look objectively, look at Google's returns, which are very high compared to S&P returns, but look at Bitcoin's returns, and you can see Bitcoin is repricing the entire thing. So if people want to store their wealth in Google, it's going to not go down as fast as cash, but it's still going to go down relative to Bitcoin. And that's why I say Bitcoin's repricing everything, and it doesn't matter. And I say on the caveat that it stays decentralized and secure.
Yes.
But the reason,
Let's talk about that for a sec. Yeah.
So the reason I say if it stays decentralized and secure is not because I believe it will not be seeded.
So why? Yeah, you repeat it all.
I repeat it all the time, and people ask me why I repeat it all the time. I repeat it because people need to do the work on why, and they can't trust me for it. You know the saying Bitcoin: "Don't trust, verify."
Yes.
If they do the work to understand how it stays decentralized and secure, and they become a node in the system, and they hold in self custody, it's inevitable it stays decentralized and secure. So it's not about somebody else taking the ability from you.
Yes.
It's you taking accountability. And so I would say the chance of that not happening, it being not decentralized and secure, is so infinitesimally small because I've done the work. But I always say if, so people realize they can break the two problems into different problems. So they can say, okay, I get it, right? It will reprice everything else. I'm not pricing it from US dollars. It reprices everything else. So that's one, if it stays decentralized and secure. And now put all of the attention on will it stay decentralized and secure. And my work on that, just like I wanted to understand the existing financial system, I went down to the sand and in that I thought of, if we live in a system that we make stronger through our actions, and most people don't know they do, and it's literally theft, but most people don't know, and they're dividing further, and they will divide further, right? Human nature shows that that'll continue to happen. And that system is 10,000 times bigger than Bitcoin. And many of the people that are essentially prisoners of that system
Yes.
also don't like Bitcoin because they're scared of it, right? And they're prisoners over here. Then that system has so much power against Bitcoin. So you would have to expect every attack to try to kill it.
Yes.
And I expect every attack. I've gone
Cyber
through
pricing, manipulation.
FUD, manipulation,
yeah,
everything.
propaganda, whatever.
And look in the last 14 years,
Yes.
because those attacks have happened,
Yes.
and it's stronger today. More decentralized, more secure. evidenced by more mining, compute, more nodes, never a hack. And so I can prove what I just said. I don't need to guess. I can prove this. And my node, which confirms the entire network, confirms that all the time. And so somebody to change that needs to change me, right? They need to be able to attack that network. They need to take me and a whole bunch of people that know what I know.
Yes.
And they have to get me to vote against my self-interests.
I wonder, is it the message of, if it's decentralized and secure, is that message catering only for advanced Bitcoiners? Because when I've been listening to you for the past few months, and I've been hearing that message over and over again, I went on to search what I need to do in order to open my own node. And I'm a technical person, right? I have a degree in computer science, and I used to be a programmer for a few years, although it was like 1,000 years ago. I'm still a technical person, so I can understand. And I didn't do a very great job in digging, I admit. However, from my first glance, it wasn't very user-friendly. It wasn't very easy to understand how I'm going to open my own node and what I need for it. And I need new hardware, and I need to follow a lot of instructions. And I thought to myself, but why am I doing this? What is the incentive? All I'm trying to say is it wasn't very clear for me that, okay, I want to open a node, let's do it.
So have you done it yet?
I haven't done it yet, no.
Okay.
But I've started looking into it, and I just thought, is it for advanced Bitcoiners? Am I missing something? Because it's not that simple?
So here's probably a good way to look at this. When you know Bitcoin and you realize how deep the rabbit hole is, you start here and you start to see insights that you didn't see before. And in those insights, it's like a wild journey down the rabbit hole, and
100%.
you can't believe the world looks like this. You can't believe it, and then you think, why doesn't everybody see this?
Yeah.
When you yourself didn't see it 2 years ago.
Yes.
Right. And then you go deeper, and then you go deeper, and then you go deeper, and where you are in this journey yourself, you're now getting to, wait, I'm a node.
Yeah.
I protect the network.
Yes.
And instead of, I don't have to trust anybody. This is held in check. There's no miners that can stop. It's people defending the network, and those people are global in nature. And if you counted full nodes, there's probably over 50,000 people that think like I do, and they're not going to validate.
There are about 50,000 nodes today.
And there's probably more, because a lot of them are hidden behind Tor networks.
Okay.
And how easy it is to plug in a full node is actually remarkably simple.
Okay.
You have to go through the work to be able to do it.
Yes.
But it might cost in energy, it might cost
Some
$25
time
a year.
and learning.
You can do it on Raspberry Pi, and so it's very easy, and it's getting easier and easier to do that.
Okay.
And so where you are in the journey
is
describing how far down, and that's where I say this journey, it feels complicated depending where you are.
Yes.
Just like to the person that you're talking to now, that you know everything about the financials and things that you didn't know before.
Correct.
And you look at other people and you go, how can't you know that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's
all relative.
That's just the depth of this rabbit hole. And so I understand that everybody is finding their way through, and everybody is there's early people coming into the ETF right now that you probably would never buy an ETF, because why would you do that? Why would you pay fees on something you could self-custody? You look at those people.
Why would you empower those?
And you look at those people and you go, are they insane?
Why would you hold the thing and not the thing, the paper and not the thing itself?
Yeah. So you do that, and then you realize a lot of those people are at step one. And a lot of those people will be at step 2, and they'll go into self-custody pretty soon.
Yes.
Right. So that's just our learning as this transitions.
Good answer. No, you're right. I mean, but I do want to open my own node, so I do need to put in the work.
Yeah. And then how could this system ever fail in the decentralized and security if there's that many people as guardians protecting it and they can't be found?
I love it.
Right. It's virtually impossible, because that means I'm going to zoom up a level.
Yes.
When I go all over the world, what I know is 99% of people are incredible, beautiful people. When you meet, and that's not what the media would say.
No.
How fearful, how those people are like this, and how you believe that, and you're scared to go to that country because those people are all.
Oh, yeah.
But when you actually meet the people who they are, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, this network allows all of those people to step out of a system of corruption and protect it. Hard to see it going away as more and more people, because are you ever going to, let's say Bitcoin fell by 95%, you're going to sell or buy?
No, buy.
Yeah.
Of course, buy. 95, great. Bring it on.
Yeah, so now, let's say the existing system, imagine, just let's play game theory, imagine a system that the BlackRock and everything consolidate enough coins.
Yes.
And then they start to try to make self-custody illegal, and these things are coordinated.
Yes.
And then they start shorting Bitcoin to drive price down. There's too many people that know, and they will just take all the Bitcoin into self-custody.
Yes.
And so it keeps it decentralized and secure. And what would happen in that case is, as they tried to manipulate Bitcoin, I'm not saying they will, but if they tried to do that and manipulate price down, then you would have a major financial party
Yes.
get liquidated, completely liquidated. It would look like FTX, but JP Morgan or BlackRock. And that would take down the entire system if that happened. So will these games happen? Of course they're going to happen. People are going to try to cheat because human beings have always tried to cheat. So that's totally logical that they will. But human beings have tried to cheat on a system that allowed cheating. Try to cheat a system that won't allow cheating, and eventually you're going to get liquidated. Bring it on.
Wow, I can't wait to see it.
Doesn't touch anybody that self-custodies. Doesn't touch you at all. Like, were you hurt by FTX?
No.
Were you hurt by, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's not in the bank. It's not a,
Nothing.
it's with
Nothing.
me.
Nobody cared.
Sure.
Yeah.
That is so hopeful. I love it. Okay, let's talk about risk. People talk about Bitcoin risk, and to me it's an irony. They simply are not aware of the damages and risks from fiat, or at least that fiat is the root cause of the biggest risk in the world, weaponization of money. I heard you, I think, talk about risks in one of the podcasts, and I was curious from your point of view and your experience to hear about how you handle objections that are related to risk. It's a risky business. It's a risky.
So.
And that's mostly for beginners.
So I'm going to say this from an entrepreneur and what my parents thought when I was kind of going into creating technology companies or something. Why would you do that? There's so much risk to it. Or just take this safe job. And a lot of different people did that. And what they're really saying is they're doing a bad job of understanding true risk. They're only looking the risk of the new, and not risk of the existing. Because if you work for somebody, and that job goes away, does that have risk? Of course it does. And then if you start something that creates value for somebody else, the risk is, can I create enough value, and can I learn fast enough to create enough value? So it's not more risk. It's a different perception of risk. So when you do that and you become an entrepreneur, you take that ownership, and you have to get better fast. Because if you don't, you will fail. And then it seems risky. But even if you fail and you learned all those lessons and you do the next one, you have all the lessons. And so now when people, this is the thing that confounds me. People aren't looking at the risk of their existing system. They know it's based on theft. Many people know that their individual rights and freedoms are getting taken away. If you look at the voting, politicians are getting worse and worse, because what they're actually...
So what is it? Have we become resigned?
What they're actually saying is if it's based on theft, and it doesn't matter which politician you vote for, it's who gets more of the spoils of the theft. And that means everybody gets worse. So that's the way that our system works. And so then people get apathetic to this, because they don't desensitized, and they see it's getting worse and worse, and they can see it all around themselves, and they know it. And then you have a system like Bitcoin that this system would say is terrible. So all the media that they would read would say, oh, don't go there, that has risk. when it is the only thing without counterparty to the rest of the system. It's the only thing. Housing has counterparty risk. Banks have counterparty risk. Every single thing inside your system has counterparty risk except for Bitcoin. So it's the least risky thing you could do. And people think it's the most risky because they're so used to this. They're in a control system.
Yes.
It's not a political system.
No.
It's not an economic system.
No, it's a control
It's
system.
a control system.
100%. And with CBDC coming up, it's
it-
going to be even worse.
Because it has to. It's mathematically, it has to. And this is the thing I explored in the book. If deflation is the natural state of a market,
Mm-hmm.
and for inflation to be the natural state of the market, you would have to choose, as well as every other person on the planet, to get less value each day.
Yes.
Do you choose that?
No.
Like, it should be painfully obvious that we choose to get more value. And that's deflationary. And then if you add technology to that, it's faster deflation.
Mm-hmm.
So that productivity should be flowing to us, and anything that stops it is, I'm going to add to this. Most people are measuring inflation from zero.
Mm-hmm.
The rate of theft is not from zero. The rate of theft is what rate of deflation should there be? How much richer should you be getting each year by doing nothing? That's the rate of theft. So if it was minus 5%, that you should just be getting richer every year, and then that productivity would expand. It would get faster and faster. The rate of theft has to be higher and higher. And so most people are painfully unaware that there's that much theft in the system that they're measuring from.
Yep. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay, hopefully some more people after this will go and study more. Tell me a bit about Ego Death, the fund, and what you guys are doing.
So, and we just talked about the rabbit hole and being deep, and you've probably seen me say this before, but in founding Ego Death, it was actually something. It was resolving something in me, and a hypocrisy, and I'm being honest with that. And it was because as I understood this more and more, I realized that I was hedged against this system breaking down. But all my time was in the system. I was on boards. I was on a whole bunch of boards within the system, and
Meaning, just for the people that don't know, boards of
technology
startups
companies,
or technology companies,
a whole bunch of things. But the output of all that work, making these companies successful, meant the system had to make more money so maybe my companies could win extraordinarily in that system, but the output is more people had to lose. Right, from that. And I found myself, and when I say a hypocrite, in a moral dilemma that I was caught talking all over the world about Bitcoin, and everybody saw me as a thought leader, and my time wasn't congruent with it. And that was, I couldn't, so when I say
it was not in alignment.
It wasn't in alignment.
Yeah.
And so when I say this, how deep the rabbit hole, and you find things in yourself. And you go, huh. So now it's easy to see in others. Nico and Andy, partners, and asked me to create this, and I thought this was a really great vehicle that I could put all my time congruent where I wanted the world to go. And it's been incredible. It's been because now you're building with the best entrepreneurs on the planet onto a system that is in service of making all 8 billion of us better. And it's completely in alignment. So I can't believe...
Investing only in Bitcoin
only
companies.
in Bitcoin companies. Only in Bitcoin. And to do that, and so what would that look like? So I believe that if Bitcoin is repricing the world, then, and Bitcoin has had an IRR for the last 14 years of 44%. Ups and down, 44% IRR, which is incredible. I'm talking IRR, investment returns. So the rate of returns by holding Bitcoin.
Yes.
And arguably that's measured in fiat dollars. But what's actually happening is Bitcoin is repricing everything else.
Yes.
And so I give this example all the time. My house was 300 Bitcoin.
Yes.
4 years ago.
Yes.
Now it's 25 Bitcoin.
Yes.
In 4 years, it'll be 2.5 Bitcoin. Right. So you can see it's repricing everything over time. So now if you're investing in Bitcoin-related companies, and you know that just holding the underlying asset, you'd ask, well, why am I going to invest in a company when I can just hold something like that? And you invest in it because you believe that company is going to provide so much value that they're going to collect more Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Mm-hmm. And so you'd get venture type returns on top of a venture type asset.
It's also a question of scale. If you want the whole ecosystem to grow, you want to invest in companies that are doing more to scale the ecosystem bigger, faster.
For sure. But so I would do that anyways. But I would say, selfishly, it's the best investment you could ever make.
Is it like the MicroStrategy kind of
to me,
model?
So MicroStrategy has a different model to collect more Bitcoin. We have a model that by building the companies that are going to be essentially the new utilities, mm-hmm. and they're going to provide so much value in Bitcoin that they get paid in Bitcoin.
Yes.
So they're collecting more Bitcoin every month.
While MicroStrategy is still getting fiat money.
They're buying more.
Yes,
and
they're buying more, but their revenue is in fiat dollars, right?
Exactly. And maybe they change, and Michael's fantastic, but and he's becoming a Bitcoin development company, so maybe he sees some of the same thing we see. Mm-hmm. But I'll give you an example. One of our companies that we funded, we did the term sheet last, LN Markets. Mm-hmm. They were not profitable in August of last year. Now they're massively profitable. They did 50 million in August last year. Now, last month they did 470 million.
Wow.
In Bitcoin, that's trading volume.
Sure.
But now they're very profitable. What do you think they're profitable in? They're profitable in Bitcoin. So not only are the profits going like skyrocketing, like venture, like you don't see companies grow that fast, right?
No, that's very fast.
So you're in a 6-month time frame, but now their profits are all as Bitcoin's going up in value. All their profits are going up in value, and their balance sheet is going up in value.
So for you, from an investor point of view, this is amazing. There's nothing like that.
Here's an example. It seems that to me it's a simple example, but I don't know why people don't see it. If you were in Argentina mm-hmm. in 2000, and you had a chance to invest in Google, and have the cash flows denominated in US instead of denominated in Argentina, that would seem like a good trade. You're getting a massive growth company that is in a stronger currency, right? And then when you realize that US cash flows on all companies are getting destroyed, and you could put into Bitcoin and create Bitcoin cash flows, it seems like a pretty simple idea.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing. But the entrepreneurs in this space, they're incredible. It was early in the internet, and I thought I'd never get a chance to do that again, because I went into the internet because you could see the future, what was going to happen, mm-hmm. and you saw the best talent moving into this. This is an order of magnitude, maybe 2 order of magnitudes more powerful than the internet was. Wow. It's early. It's really early.
It is early.
But it is so much, and I experienced both, right? So I have pattern recognition on what this looks like, and I can't believe I'm lucky enough to do this.
And at the moment, correct me if I'm wrong, there are no other investment.
No, there are.
There are?
Yeah, there
okay.
are, and there's some really good ones too. Like there's
enough.
There's a wall of money that's going to come here. So
now with the ETFs.
I'm talking about wall of money. So we just opened up our second fund.
Yes.
And in 22 days since opening it up, like the calendar's full of people
wanting
to join. So normally it would take kind of a year, 18 months to close a fund of that size. It's not going to take that long.
A few months?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's remarkable.
Okay. So the money will come in.
And we're raising that fund because now the ecosystem is exploding. It's growing so fast that now the next money can say, okay, this is de-risked. Now it's growing this. Now let's go into this. So if I compare these compared to the internet that lived through in this, I still think we're kind of 95, 96 in the internet.
Not even 2,000.
We're not to 99 where a whole bunch of money comes in and is
Yes.
burned because they're spending on outrageous valuations and things. That's still to come, and then there's going to be a correction after that, and then another. Then the best will emerge out of that.
Okay, so exciting times ahead. Can I ask you about the LPs that are putting money
Sure.
into these kind of venture funds?
Yep.
Do they get Bitcoin?
Yes.
Or are they money people?
100%.
Really?
So-
They're just wealthy individuals with
And now
that get
and now
Bitcoin.
institutions and some people that like I don't want to say names, but
Sure.
actually I can say Pete Brigger is an advisor, so I can say his name. Pete Brigger is the chairman of Fortress. Fortress is $46 billion capital company that's extraordinarily valuable. So they're one of the kind of cogs in the existing financial system. Pete is a huge Bitcoiner. Massive Bitcoiner. At the BlackRock conference, he had me stand up in a room with about $8 trillion in it and said, I've told you guys to buy Bitcoin for years. Many of you haven't and still won't. If you're interested in learning more, I like to get Jeff Booth to stand. Jeff Booth is a GP at Ego Death. You'll never forget the name. I suggest you go talk to him. So more and more people, just like that insight, they're starting to see, it's just early, right? They're starting to see this is the signal.
Yes.
And they're moving their time, just like I did, just like you did, just like we all do. And once you're here, once you're in that spot, you think everybody else is over here. It's just somewhere along their journey.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Wow. I hope. And so my next question, and I've written to you about this, and I had some time to think about it as well, is that where I come from and the industry that I've seen, my investors, in previous startups that I've worked for were Silicon Valley, New York-based VC firms, and I've just seen a fiat game.
Totally.
I've seen a revenue, like a chase after revenue to grow startups just for the revenues. Just not so much attention on the value, on the market, and what the actual end user will get from it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm leaving, and I've left this life. I call it the previous life, because I don't want to be part of that anymore. I'm making money for someone else, and that makes the money for someone else. That makes the money for someone else. In the end, it's the big bankers and the powers that be that rule the world or whatever. And what kind of value am I left with and the end users are left with? Not much in the end of the day. And many of these companies collapse. So many startups do not succeed.
Yeah.
And they do burn a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in that game anymore. So is that going to be different, you think?
So
Like the Bitcoin game?
So for sure it's going to be different. It's going to be a lot different. So this reminds me of a conversation I had with Jack Dorsey in Costa Rica. The conversation is we compared notes on many of the VCs from the Fiat game. And because they were in our cap tables, right? He was a higher level than my cap, but still a lot of the same VCs, same names and everything.
Sure.
And you realize how broken the system was and how little control you had in the system once it was a financialized game. And that was a hard thing as an entrepreneur trying to build value, to see how the game is played. And he saw it too. In fact, that's why he's in Bitcoin. That's why I'm in Bitcoin, because it's a totally different world. Now, if you think about how capital needs to act, it's the same thing. It's an honest network. And we talked about prices falling to the marginal cost of production. So what does that mean in some of those two things? It means that entrepreneurs can't build a monopoly.
Yes.
That's what it means.
Correct.
Because they're going to be competed with, and if they compete something and they have a huge market, everybody's going to compete, and it's going to constantly fall to zero or near zero. And their only value is as long as they're creating lots of value to everybody else.
Yes.
So the output of the work means prices fall faster for everybody in society. And everybody wins. The output from an investment return, that means is that company, if they do just that one thing forever, they'll go broke.
They have to innovate.
They have to constantly innovate. And the output of that decision means you better love the entrepreneur you're going into business with, because it's going to be a long-term value. It's long-term, like Bitcoin's long-term. You actually have to think I think actually first, primarily, is this somebody I want to work with like forever?
Okay,
And obviously, the investment returns. A fund is a 10-year, 12-year fund, and so it might not be forever. But you have to think like that,
Longer
term, and you have to care about that person at a deep, deep level. Because I've just learned so much from making mistakes. I just don't want the same entrepreneurs to be able to make those mistakes if I can shortcut some of them for those people.
So if I get you right, are you saying that we're going to see more evolutions of companies, more pivots, more spin-offs?
So look at all the wallets today.
But successful, but not breaking down as much as other startups in the Fiat world?
Yeah, so that's going to happen. But again, and I want to be careful with that.
Sure.
And why I want to be careful with it is
this is
we
hypothetical.
we still live in a Fiat world, or most people are living in a Fiat world.
Okay.
I'm not, but most people are.
Yes.
So right now, and then probably
because it's early days.
Yeah.
I know this conversation.
So right now, in the next 2 or 3 years, I suspect you're going to see a massive amount of confusion around layer 2s. Lightning can't scale. Layer 2. Why? Because if there's a whole bunch of VC capital, or Tether, or convincing people that Lightning can't scale, then you can create a whole bunch of scams. And if you created enough scams or let's say a different layer than Lightning that could be centralized, now Bitcoin would look like gold, right? Because now it'd still be decentralized and secure in the base layer, but you wouldn't know how much trading is happening, and you could run fractional reserve on top of it.
Right.
That will happen. It will happen because human nature says it'll happen, and it's happening right now. And we've probably seen 100 different startups funded for crazy valuations around no value whatsoever, about a bridge to Bitcoin in a layer 2. And I believe right now, all of the stuff that Lightning can't scale, when it is scaling perfectly, I use it every day, is that trying to manipulate people's thoughts to be able to create different value. I think it's all going to go to zero. That whole ecosystem that is going to happen will look a lot like all the altcoins.
Okay.
Right? And a whole bunch of hot money will chase it.
Okay.
And
it will disappear.
And it'll disappear. And that's what I mean. The honest system, it doesn't care. Just keeps on going.
And you guys have the expertise to identify those kind of companies and not invest in them, but rather go with the right ones.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. Okay, I hope that
but you'll hear
Bitcoin future for startups looks a bit different.
It will in time, and I would hope that the people that we would back would say what it actually looks like. It looks totally different. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
You'd have to ask different entrepreneurs that we backed what it looks like to them. But that's what, if I'm doing my job right, or if we're doing our job right, that's what it looks like to them.
Right. And the other thing I thought about is that if in a normal Fiat world, one of the toughest jobs, in my opinion, is to scale companies. And for that, you need really good marketing. Obviously, sales as well, but you need really good marketing. In Bitcoin startups, I think it's even more so.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
So I think I
just
think
because of the education gap and the knowledge gap. No?
So no, I don't think so. I think the best companies today are product companies, and they need almost zero marketing.
Okay.
And think about some that you use. How much marketing does Google spend? How much does Amazon spend? How much does Facebook spend? No, but what they're doing is
but they're also a monopoly now.
You're spending on them. They actually never did they build a product that everybody else moves to, that then everybody else spends through them, right? And convinces those other people to spend more on marketing. And they all do this, a similar model by aggregating supply.
Yes.
So product companies, or how much does Tesla spend on marketing? When you cut through the noise on a product that gives so much value, the market comes to you. And so now, and I don't want to, sounds like I'm being binary here on marketing.
Yeah.
I'm not, but I know it sounds like it. I don't mean that way. Great marketing is key. But
you got to remember that when I say marketing, I don't just mean the marketing communications part of it. I mean the product marketing and the strategy.
So when I think about the product, I think about designing something so great for people that it doesn't need marketing. Because every dollar I put into marketing, I have to put less money into the product so I have to tell more people, I have to yell at more people that my thing's better than everything else. And I'm taking money away from making my thing better for everything else to yell at more people. So that's how I think about the process. And if I have to do that, then I'm going to be spending that marketing in the same place everybody else is, Google, Facebook, everything else. And then my only advantage is, can I spend it better than them? And it's a race to the bottom.
Got it. Okay. I can go on here, but no, I get it. Can you talk to me a bit about the fear of AI that we see around us today? I must say that when I listened to your book, and I think I got your view about AI, there are some things there that I didn't agree with. I mean, for example, I think that regulation for AI is a step by the strong ones to gain more power in a way. I think regulation...
I totally agree.
...helps the corporations
so regulation,
the people that ask to be regulated in a way.
No, regulation is what creates a monopoly.
Exactly.
So right now, who's advocating for regulation and who's scaring the public about AI? Microsoft, Google, Facebook,
Twitter.
And because prices follow the marginal cost of production, and there is no monopoly without regulation. That's why they're doing it. So that is the entire game.
Okay. And how do you see AI impact the shorter term, the next two to 3, 4 years?
So, in the book, remember when it was written, 2019?
Yes.
And predicting where AI would be, and where's AI? And because I knew this was coming exponentially and most people were measuring linearly, I was watching the movie play out while most people were watching a frame of the movie.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then they're surprised at the next frame, and they're going to be surprised at the next frame, and they're going to when it's really easy to see. It's simple to see where this goes. And all of that productivity that is driving should be in service to you, and prices should fall faster and faster and faster and faster. And as that AI merges with robots, and those robots can grow food, and all of those things fall at the same rate. And so all of the things become abundant from that system. The only world that can measure that system is Bitcoin. And all of those things have to be stolen from you at a faster and faster rate in the control system. So why it feels like people are losing control, why a CBDC is critical, why all these things, or war to reset world, one of those outcomes are critical, is because it's a control system to steal that from you. And so out of the control system, you will hear more fear. You will hear more regulation. You will hear more, we need to tax the robots, right? That's a good idea, right? So we make the things more expensive so we can tax you so you stay in this mouse wheel out of the control system. But you'll hear these things and you'll think, and people will say, let's do basic income, let's spend, and you'll hear more and more crazy ideas and you'll wonder, well, where does money come from to do that? And what if you just let it all flow to society so they don't need all the nonsense? Then AI would serve us instead of control us. Right? That's the choice that every human on the planet has right now. And you have an open, decentralized, secure network in Bitcoin, and any single person can move from the control system over to the new one,
to the freedom system,
and all they need to know is, I can, and nothing can stop that. And so as more and more control and more individual rights and freedoms are taken away in the control system and things start breaking down, more and more people are going to move to the new system, and that's going to emerge. It's like a bridge. It's like a parallel system that's building alongside.
So in your view, AI doesn't have to be this doom and gloom scenario where they start controlling.
You're going to like my speech tomorrow.
Oh, I can't wait.
You're going to like my speech tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And it's going to also be streamed on YouTube, so I'm going to put the link to that speech also on the show notes here, so people can make the connection. Okay, great. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, I've got a good one. You spoke with Knut about the ascension in human consciousness, and I loved it. And how do you see that related to Bitcoin? I mean, we did touch on it a little bit. We just didn't give it that title.
Yeah, I think this, and I said this with Knut, but we all view the world, right, through our own lens, and we reinforce that world through us. And yours will be slightly different than mine, and mine will be slightly different, and we go through reinforcing that, and we're so convinced that it's the view of the world, and it is. It's true for you, yours, mine's true for me, and we live. And how many people do you know that are caught up in this control system and believe it and are super unhappy? And they give themselves give it more strength, and they yell at one side or the other, and they give the whole thing more strength, and they think they're winning. But if you're just objective and you say, "Is my life getting better?" right, and it's all about me, right? It's my views. It's my then you either fix it or don't. And so what's happening in this? Once you move out of, I would say, the simple way is to explain it is this: if we lived on a base layer of theft, and that layer had to extract from some people to enrich another people, and that's a world that everybody lived on, what would be the mirror image over time reflecting back? Who would win? Who would lose? What would your life look like if that's how we interacted, humans all over the planet? And so that is the system that most people live in today. They know it, right? I'll give you a real tangible example. People in the U.S. or Europe and everything else are now complaining about inflation.
Yes.
And now they're starting to rise up. But they don't know that Democratic Republic of Congo, right, there where you get paid $2.50 a day to dig out a cobalt, right? And cobalt wouldn't work in their electric cars unless you pay them $2.50 a day. And then they keep revaluing the currency down. So what you've actually done by extracting that is you've created essentially modern day slavery. But you don't have to move the slaves to your country. You keep them there. And you constantly revalue the currency, and you extract more and more from them. And so Lebanon just had a currency crisis. Malawi did, Egypt did, Argentina, Venezuela, all of them right now. It's all happening all over the world. So you're keeping people there, and you're constantly extracting more and more. And it's only for the rich nations coming into view, because at the bottom of the economic ladder now, it's not just extraction from other people, it's extraction from within your country too.
Yep.
And it's getting worse and worse and worse, but it's always been there. That's a hard thing to deal with. That's a hard thing to deal with. I would say that was my hardest thing going down the rabbit hole, that I was somehow complicit in my success was somebody else's pain. And so when you see that and you say, okay, so that's what the world looks like today. I know that's what the world looks like today. And everything I do in that system makes that worse. And in the new system, it looks exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
So you cannot help but be super hopeful to where we go as a humanity when the mirror image of what it looks like is on top of an honest system. Because honesty wins. All of the productive members of society win.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't be stolen from.
And that's why I spend a lot of my time now passing on the knowledge and the education that I get to other people, so that they don't just yell at Klaus Schwab that he's, trying to control our lives, but actually do something about your wealth.
Think about the number of people that
your energy.
Think about the number of people that march down the street
in protests.
If all of those people just moved over to the new system, Klaus Schwab wouldn't have any power.
Starve the
over
beast.
them. He doesn't have any power. The power is gained from the power you give.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where it comes. So you and every single person it doesn't have to play that game anymore. That's what Bitcoin is. Play a new game.
That's why we say opt out.
Yeah.
Okay, and then starve the beast. The beast can continue playing its games.
Keep going, but you're only devaluing yourself, right? Because we're not being devalued.
Yeah, and on a spiritual level, this is where you not only you feed the beast, but you also give your energy, your spiritual energy to that game, rather than investing in your sovereignty, in your calmness, in your community, in your wealth, in your life.
Yeah.
And then building something new that doesn't require you to fight and try to protect what's yours,
Yeah.
but rather live a much more relaxed life.
Yeah, that's the so. So if you told, and I've said this on too many podcasts, but I'm going to do it again. If you and I use this specific example because everybody knows somebody like this, but we all know somebody who's a victim in our life, right? And why are they a victim? Most people would answer that. They wouldn't answer what it really is. They're a victim largely because they want love and belonging, right? Largely, because all of human beings, that's superordinate to anything else, love and belonging. And through being a victim early on, when you're a victim, everybody came to you and it felt magical. So you use a tool to get everybody to come to you that pushes everyone away. And as they go further and further away, you go down deeper in a hole. And you have a sign that every friend knows. They can see it on your forehead that you're a victim. And they don't tell you. And you're lonely, and so you create more drama to try to get people to come back, and they push way further. And so there's people that go through their entire life like that. And in that, they don't know they created their entire life like that because they didn't know that love was all around them all the time. But to try to convince that person that they're not right, they are right. They just don't know that they created it, right? It is real to them. And if I'm walking down the street and I see abundance everywhere and I see beautiful relationships everywhere, my truth is just as true to me as theirs is to them. It's just different, right?
Yeah.
And so me telling somebody, yelling at somebody that they're wrong, they're not wrong. They're right for them. It's up to them to decide if they want something different.
Yeah. It's up to them to see and choose.
Yeah.
Choose something else.
Yeah.
If they can see it.
Yeah, if they want to. But if they don't want to, if that's what you want, then by all means go keep doing it. Who am I to tell you?
And that's going to be the life that you have.
Yeah.
Okay, so other than AI, what else are you going to cover or talk about in the conference this week? Can you give us a hint? Just a hint, not the whole thing. What are you going to touch on?
I'm going to touch on this, kind of the future of Bitcoin.
Yes.
So if you thought I was doing this at expert level now,
it's going to go even more.
Then this might blow people's brains.
Okay.
Because it actually takes us to really what this means.
Okay.
And it takes us way deeper on what on what this means. But I would say one of the things I'm really excited for on where Bitcoin is, layer 2 on Lightning, where Fedimints are coming. So there's a belief right now, and Lynn Preston and I were talking in New York last week, and said, I'm surprised people are surprised, right? Because we saw a long time ago Lightning couldn't scale to 8 billion people, like a long time ago. But it could be a superhighway network to connect the next layer. And so that's actually why we invested in Fedi, because we knew the conversations that people are having today and coming up with some crazy trade-off decisions that are just, they won't work, nonsense. We knew this a long time ago and wanted to help build the scaling
just
layers.
Just for the people that don't know Fedi, the startup that you invested in, just in one line.
What ends up happening is in Bitcoin, at the bottom of Bitcoin, you can do custody. Where you can share custody. So you could have kind of a 3 of 5 multi-sig. You could have 5 people, and 3 people could unlock that. So Fedi took Chamonix Cash and they tied it to a federated model of that. And what that would mean, it's a completely private, above Bitcoin, secure, private, communication private, everything private. And what it means is I could have a family federation. My my 5 family members could be on this. I mean, if I lost my Bitcoin, they could restore it for me. 3 of 5. So, as in a simple example. But I could have a bigger federation with more money, a community that can trade all in. It doesn't even have to touch Lightning or Bitcoin. It can trade all in inside that. And then and then anytime you want out of the federation, you go to Lightning and then you come back to Bitcoin. But you can create essentially limitless community banks, limitless small federations. And so what I think is going to happen on that as a scaling layer is people will trust more money in the smaller ones, and they might trade a little in the larger ones. But you provide a scaling solution that I think can touch every person on this planet.
I must hook up with them because I think this is going to be a perfect solution for a lot of the awakened, red-pilled community that are looking to build like sovereignty. And
that's happening right now. So they're in beta right now in a whole bunch of communities.
Is it available all over the world?
So it's not public yet, but we actually helped that team. They're incredible. So, but
I saw the CEO is cool.
He's awesome. But the entire team is incredible, and so we actually pulled back on a public launch to make sure that it was so buttoned down.
Okay.
So it's so secure that because once it goes public, and it go probably in the second quarter of this year.
Yes.
Look out, because anybody has that. Once it's in the wild,
it's a great weapon.
Everybody can use it anywhere.
Sure.
And
Exactly.
imagine you're in North Korea.
Yes.
And your guardians are outside of North Korea.
Wow.
Nothing.
That's a lot of power.
Nothing can stop people from using it in China. Nothing. You can't stop it.
Wow.
Right. So
that's very exciting.
Yeah, really.
But
powerful.
I took you away from talking about the.
Yeah. So the speech and everything else is kind of the future. Where we're going on a Bitcoin standard. What does that mean for humanity? What does that look like?
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. Okay. Jeff, I normally ask, like my last question is, can we end this on a message of hope? But we don't need to, because I think this whole conversation is all hope, so no need. Where can people follow you? Where's the best place?
Probably on Nostr these days is where
really?
I am.
Are you active there?
Yeah. Yeah, more so than Twitter, but I'd say go to my website, jeffbooth.ca, and the reason I say go to the website is if I don't have a social media account on my website, it's not me. There's so many scammers out there.
Yes.
And so take the Nostr ID from my website if you're going to do that, and then we can connect there.
Okay, great. So Nostr.
Yeah.
And Twitter if you have to. But
yeah.
Okay, cool. And I just want to thank you for who you are. It's
thank
a
you.
privilege. I mean, I approached you on Twitter and you said yes straight away, and it's
I built some
really
incredible. Andre did the same. Andre from here, same thing.
Yes.
And you meet incredible people all over the world, and this is what it should look like.
Inspiring. This is what it should look like.
This is what it should look like everywhere. This is what it will look like everywhere.
This is so great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And for spending the time with me.
No
It was
problem.
wonderful.
Yeah, it was great.
Cool.